Hi, this is Isabel Litzler, Pleiad HC, the place to be to develop your skills and grow your potential. So today's video is about fighting off expat fears, because I realize when I read posts or see comments on people wanting to work in Switzerland, there's this big fear about not fitting in, about not getting a job easy. So I wanted to make a video to give you some tips on how to overcome the fear. So that you can go quicker in terms of settling in Switzerland or achieving your career objective in Switzerland. So the context I wanted to give you for a few minutes about Switzerland, because I find that's important, especially when I read the comments. The first thing is that most people don't really know where they're getting into. So I hear or I see these views about Switzerland. People think it's part of Europe. So I get a lot of comments about people who think because they have a permit in Switzerland, in Spain or in Portugal or wherever, that it's a plug and play with Switzerland. Switzerland is not part of the EU, so make sure when you want to migrate to a country, you look at, what's going on, what's the political status there. It's true that people tend to see Europe as one piece, but there are some countries within this big piece that are not part of the EU. I mean, the UK just opted out of Europe. Switzerland is not part of it. So you just have to be aware a little bit about the latest there in terms of political scenery, economy, etc., so that you know what you're getting into. So my first step or my first piece of advice would be prepare yourself before you accept to be an expat. So, and I know especially with people following a partner, it's very important to be aware of what you're getting into. So I see a lot of partners following husband or wife. They end up in a situation that they didn't expect. Usually it comes with a lot of fears and disappointment and difficulty. So it's not a nice place to be in. So you'd rather look at the country and the situation before you actually sign off on coming to Switzerland, because once you're here or once you're in the country, you will find that it's not as easy as you thought, and it comes with some challenges. So I just want to make that clear. And I know by the time people contact me, usually after a while, and they've been looking on their own, they struggled sometimes for a very long time, and they really need help. And they all underestimate how much work it is. I had one client who was very, very qualified, I would say very skilled. And I have many like this. I could go on and on about all these skilled expats who had great careers in other countries where their skills were maybe a little bit more recognized, if I can use the word, or just they were able to do the job. They come to Switzerland and they realize it's not the same. They're not recognized. The market tends to be very, very tiny for them. I mean, if you look at Geneva, Zurich, or Bern, they are big cities, but in comparison to New York or London, I mean, we're still talking about a smaller version of a big city. And of course, that means less multinationals to apply to, especially for internationals or expats. My clients are usually people who work for big companies who have an international background. So when they come to Switzerland, they realize their market is just a small little piece to work with. I mean, there's a lot of small businesses in Switzerland. It's actually a small business type of country, but then you can't really work there because you don't speak the local language, and it's going to take a while to brush up. So this market is not really open to you, I would say, especially as a new expat. So really, you're dealing with what? You're dealing with multinationals, English-speaking businesses, startups. Startups don't really recruit that much because they're just starting out. So usually it's just the founding team and maybe a few interns, but there's no real hiring going on. So you just have to be aware of these things, and that's part of researching a country. I will give a lot of information in my next conference going on in November. I do a conference every month online on Facebook on a topic. So it's going to be about the future of work. I'm going to give some very, very important information. So I will put the link below so you can register now. This is going to be huge because I've done some research on the jobs of tomorrow. I've been reading about it. I've been going to conferences myself so that I'm aware of what's going on, the context, and where the jobs will be, because I want to prepare you, also help you prepare for these jobs of tomorrow. So I see now with individuals that they're not preparing for the jobs of today. So And this is moving very fast, so you need to be aware that your skills will have to be upgraded very quickly. So that's why I will make this conference. I will talk about the trends. I will talk about some family of jobs to get into so that you're securing yourself to some extent, especially if you're young and you're watching this video and you haven't finished college or you're just starting, where to go to maximize the chances of getting a job. So really preparation, that's my number one piece of advice. That's going to save you a lot of trouble, headache, disappointment, and it also help you with fears, because fear, in my view, comes also from not knowing. I mean, if you know what to expect, then the fear goes away because you know, you're aware. If you don't know, then you're walking on ice, basically. The second thing to help you fight off your fears is to do a skills checkup. So again, going back with what I was saying, you need to understand a little bit about where you stand in terms of what you have to offer to a country. So you come to Switzerland, it's not part of Europe, there's 3 languages involved, the skill set is usually very high. So where do you stand? That's going to help you also be more confident, if I can use the word, because then you will know what's expected and you train yourself, you prepare yourself. It will also diminish the anxiety. I mean, I give you a very easy example. When you go to an interview, and again, I've been there, so I'm talking from experience. I've been there when I wasn't aware. I would say I didn't have the conscience. So meaning that I was just, going around in life, going for the next job and trying things. I say in my bio that I've tried a lot of things. I worked in banking, I worked in international organizations. I mean, I've talked about that in my bio. So I was tapping to see where I fit, which is not, I would say this is not the easiest path because it takes a long time and you get hurt along the way. So I want to avoid, that's why I do these videos, that's why I do what I do, is I want to avoid that people go through all the hassle that I had to go through for many, many years to get to where I am now. So that comes from not being aware, not knowing. So I was going to interviews, I was really bad at them because, I got hired, but I was still, I think, not so good because I wasn't as prepared as I could have been, and I was a little bit, had issues also with presenting myself very well, etc. So it's a path, you improve. So that's why I would say prepare yourself and upgrade your skills. If you see that there's some things that don't fit with the Swiss market, invest in yourself, I guess is my message. Even though I've always invested in terms of education, I went to university, I did continuing education many times. But even now, I'm still learning every day. I'm trying to do something every day, every week, every month to keep upgrading also, because the world is changing and the thing that now is going to be obsolete the next month almost. So that's my recommendation to help settle in Switzerland and have a chance to get a good job in Switzerland, is to see what the market needs in your particular field. And if there's a gap, try to fill this gap so that you feel also more confident. I mean, the more you know about your topic, the more you feel confident in front of a recruiter because you know what you're talking about. It's you feel that you belong, in this job. And the third thing is to take time to learn about Switzerland. I know a lot of expats come with this idea that, okay, I just come and do what I did the last time I was an expat, or in the last country I was in. But it's going to take a little bit more work because of this really, really complicated situation. I mean, for some of you who are in Switzerland, you already know this, but there's different cantons and different languages, and the process changes if you move cities sometimes within the same place. So it's just a very complicated country in general to settle in for someone who doesn't understand the language, understand the culture. So really take the time to learn, and especially before you come, if you have a chance, to know exactly, what cities are in Switzerland, what economic opportunities for you, if there's any. Sometimes, depending on what you do, there might not be many opportunities. So I've had, unfortunately, people who stayed without a job for a long time. So the 2 things you need to do is to prepare yourself on your own as much as you can. And then if you see you get to a point where you've done as much as you can, that would be to work with me so that I can help you to the next level. So that's how I would finish this video for today for Monday motivation, is really prepare yourself before you migrate to Switzerland as much as you can, learn as much as you can, and then you can come and contact me if you need extra help. Thanks.